Buenas tardes. Vamos a comenzar el acto. Toma la palabra el señor decano del Ilustre Colegio de la Abogacía de Madrid, don Eugenio Rebón.
Muy buenas tardes, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. Good afternoon and welcome to the Madrid Bar Association. As President of the Madrid Bar Association, it's a real honor to welcome you to such a special event for our institution. As you know, today we have the real privilege of receiving in the premises of the Madrid Bar Association one of the most respected voices at European level, whose reflection and analysis have a profound impact on orientation and decision-making in Europe. For this reason, and first of all, I would like to express our special or deepest gratitude and appreciation to Professor Enrico Letta for joining us and for taking the time to share with us his perspectives at a particularly delicate moment for the future of the European project. Professor Letta, thank you very much. Thank you so much. In 2023, on the 30th anniversary of the creation of the European single market, the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, asked the European Commission and the Spanish and Belgian Presidents of the European Union Council to present a report analyzing the European single market and offering concrete recommendations to modernize one of the key pieces of the European integration process. Shortly thereafter, the drafting of this high-level report was entrusted to a renowned Italian teacher and politician whose career unquestionably justified this important request. Minister of Industry and Foreign Trade from 1999 to 2001, Minister of European Affairs from 1998 to 1999, the youngest minister in the history of the Italian Republic at only 32 years of age. Fantastic. Member of the European Parliament, Prime Minister of Italy between 2013 and 2014, Dean of the School of International Affairs at Sciences Po Paris, currently President of the Jacques Delors Institute and Dean of the AE of Politics, Economic and Global Affairs. His academic background also included a solid intellectual experiences as a graduate in international law and doctorate in community law from the Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in Pisa. 8 months later, in April 2024, after visiting 65 European cities and participating in more than 400 meetings with experts from all sectors, Professor Letta returning to the European Council with a 147-page report entitled Much More Than a Market: Speed, Security, Solidarity. The Letta report, as is now popularly known, presenting an accurate diagnosis, a detailed roadmap, and above all, an outstanding conclusions. The urgent need for further integrate the single market into areas such as telecommunication, finance, and energy, so that Europeans stop losing its threat to other areas of the world. At the Madrid Bar Association, we could not agree more. We understand that we live in a critical context where we need more agile decisions-making structures and regulatory framework that favor investment and innovation. Well, it's true that during the last 30 years, the European market, representing more than 450 million citizens and accounting for more than 50% of world GDP, has positioned the European Union as one of the most powerful trading blocs in the world. It's clear that the current challenges require rethinking the structures and the functioning to safeguard the European relevance in the coming decades. Indeed, Europe has lagged in fields such as the development of high-tech companies. We barely have any microprocessor companies in energy transition with a high dependence on the outside, or in the research of development with weak investment. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, we witnessed a very serious energy crisis that revealed Europe's vulnerability, caused in part by dependence on Russia, gas, oil, or coal. On top of that, defense matters have increasingly become a concern for the European Union, demonstrating that European unity and integration are now at the center of the debate. As we are aware, the current international security environment has pushed for a recent proposal from the European Commission aiming to mobilize up to 800 billion euros in the next 4 years. We have no precedent about it. This includes 150 billion euros in loans to member states, making the first time that the European Union will use common debt to fund military expenditures. The implementation of this plan will be pivotal in securing Europe's future. Just as the single market has transformed our economies, the new defense initiative will reshape our collective security strategy. The aim is not only to respond to external threats, but to ensure that the European Union remains a key global player capable of acting independently when necessary. And this is what the Letta report is all about. Professor Letta brings to the table the keys of how broader integration will help the European Union to still be relevant in the 21st century. We, as jurists, is up to actively participate in its understanding, development, and implementation. Finally, I would like to highlight that the latest book, Europe, Last Chance, Professor Letta underscored that the future of Europe hinges on its ability to act swiftly and decisively in the face of the global challenges. I am sure you, Mr. Letta, that the Madrid Bar Association will be up to the task. Thank you very much. We are very proud of you. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, decano. Toma la palabra el señor Enrico Letta.
Ilustre decano, queridos amigos, es un privilegio, un gran placer estar aquí. Voy a continuar en inglés porque el tema es demasiado técnico y complicado para mi primitivo español. Pero para mí es un verdadero privilegio estar aquí y aprovechar de esta audiencia. Because I will tell you immediately that I'm here not to give but to take. I'm here to take, I'm here to exchange, I'm here to discuss with you because I would like to receive ideas and to test on some of the main points of the reports and what we are doing at the European level now, how an audience like the one is gathering here can have some ideas, can adjust some points, can tell me, don't go there, it doesn't work, or go there, it can work. Because at the end of the day, what we are living today, and Ilustre Decano, you choose the fantastic day, because today is the day of the big weight of what we are expecting from the US, from the news about aranceles. I start by telling you maybe 2 points that can be interesting for you, not about the report, but about the reactions to the report. Because I think that today, after all what is happening, and also the presentations I had of the report, the discussions with the governments, the discussions in Brussels, I can tell you that for me, 2 reactions were the most interesting one. And it would be for me interesting to have your reactions to these reactions. The first one, there's a general surprise when I present the report, and I have to say that the book that is now in Spanish too, the book is a very good herramienta, is a very good tool to try to discuss not only about the technical details of the report, but also about the general idea. And I can tell you that for me it is always a surprise in having as a reaction a sort of big surprise by saying that the main questions I receive, or the main reactions are, but you are telling us that in Europe we are not integrated, but we have the same currency. If we have the same currency, that means that economically we are the same framework. And in reality, my big first step in all the discussions I'm having, but also with decision makers, with the different governments, I'm presenting the report in the national parliaments, and for me it's a great opportunity I was in Athens speaking in front of the members of the oldest parliament in the world. It was a great privilege. But having always this reaction of a sort of incredulity, to say, but it is not so bad. We have the same currency, so we are together. And in reality, when we start thinking that all the effort to have the same currency was, at the end of the day, a big absorption of political energy. And we decided, as member states, as European Union, to take a rest, to relax, and not to go with the same big determination on the other subjects. And the fact that today we have these 3+1 big sectors that are telecom, energy, financial services, the 3, plus defense. I say plus because, as you know, defense is not part of the single market, technically, but defense can be a very interesting topic today in all this discussion. But these 3 topics that are so crucial for the economy, and I have to say for competitiveness and for security. I will come back to that. But my strong point is to say that security doesn't mean only weapons. Security is a broader term. Is it possible to say that we are in a security mood when we are not energy independent? We are not financially independent. We are not in connectivity independent. There are so many topics where on technology we are dependent. We are not independent. For me, one of the most impressive, astonishing statements, phrases that I heard, that we heard in the last 10, 15 years, among the so many words we are hearing, it was what Elon Musk said when addressing the Ukrainians. He said, behave, otherwise I switch off. Compórtate bien, si no, desconecto. I think this phrase, we have to put it, I told Ursula von der Leyen, my proposal is to take this phrase and to put this phrase at the top of Berlaymont, in Brussels, is the only way to understand every day that we have to move, because today we are dependent. And we are dependent on so many issues. Someone who can say, I disconnect if you don't behave. And I think this is the main point and the main discussion, even today. So the need to integrate is not because we are fanatic pro-Europeans. It's only because we need to be autonomous, independent as Europeans and as member states. And the second, for me, big surprise is the fact that in all the presentations, not here, of course, but in many presentations I receive one question that is the following one. At the end of the presentation, usually the first question is, interesting what you said, we like it, but it will be impossible. And it will be impossible because with the present European governance, one country will put the veto and everything will be blocked. And it is interesting for me. I was thinking to this phrase, because as you know better than I do, it is a fake, this phrase, because the single market issues are all decided with the majority rule, not with the unanimity rule. So it's not a question of veto or unanimity. We take all the decisions on the single market with the majority. So if one country is against, it's his own problem. The European Union can decide. The only exception, a big exception, is for fiscalia, is for taxes. But for the rest, for telecom issues, for the financial markets, for energy, we can easily decide at 20, at 22, at 24. But why people think that all European matters are decided at unanimity? Why there's this idea that in reality we are not able to decide and to move? And at the end of the day, I think it's because the normal behavior of our countries, of our member states, is not to force, not to be in determination to go and to decide. While you see 2, 3, 4 countries, for example, a country that is a funder country, that is a very small country, with big interest in the financial system, I think you understand what I'm referring to, is saying that we don't want the unique supervision of financial market because we want to keep our own financial market nationally. The other countries can say, okay, it's your position, but we agree and we decide. Because it's the way in which in any gathering of 27 people, it's impossible to wait that we are all agree on that. This is the key point. So the two aspects I mentioned at the beginning of this reflection are, first, the awareness of the problem, of this asymmetric integration that we are having. And this asymmetric integration is a huge problem for us, because the fact that we are not integrated in sectors where the dimension matter, energy, telecom, financial markets, or sectors where our own behavior as consumer is giving privilege to the dimension. As consumers, usually, we privilege the dimension, the big protagonist in the market. But we, at the European level, keeping it at national level, on telecom, on finance, on energy, at the end of the day, we limit the competitiveness of our national champions. And today, a European champion is not existing. We have only, at least, national champions. If you ask me, or if you think a little bit, who is a European champion? I think at the end of the day, we have only one brand in mind, only one name in mind on that. I'm not referring to Carletto Ancelotti. I'm saying... And the only brand we have in mind at the end of the day is Airbus. Why? Because Airbus is one, big. Nobody can say Airbus is Portuguese, Spanish, French, German. Airbus is European. Airbus doesn't have one national flag. Airbus is European. It's not by chance that Airbus wins at world level and Boeing loses, because Airbus is one, without a national flag. But if you think all the other sectors, each of the big brands, they start with a national flag. And starting with a national flag, they are automatically limited. The national passport, the national flag is a ceiling today. It was a boost 30 years ago. At the end of the day, today is a ceiling, because the world and the market at world level is so big that we need to move from the national to the European one. But if the market is national, it's impossible to move. I can give you so many examples of that. And this fragmentation is the big gift that you give to our friends, Wall Street, the Americans, the Chinese, the Indians. They take advantage of this fragmentation. There are so many examples. Defense is the most incredible example. With our fragmentation, we decided to have defense in the title, because defense today is one of the main topics. The fragmentation in defense, in the defense industry, is creating un montón de empleos in the US with our own money. We spend 140 mil millones de euros to help the Ukrainians militarily. It was good, and we have to continue. The key point is that because of our fragmentation in 27, we are not able to transform this money in jobs for the Europeans, because we need to spend immediately this money, and the only way is to buy non-European military furnitures. Because the Americans, they have the dimension, they have immediately the military furnitures available, and so the numbers, because I don't want to be abstract in these reflections, I want to be, I would say, pragmatic. When I say this fragmentation is a gift to our competitors, for instance, on defense, that means that 80% of these 140 mil millones de euros goes to the US. Not only to the US, also to Turkey and to South Korea, because they are good in that. And I think it is as a paradox, a suicide. But the same is for many other issues. I usually use the example of the digital payments. That is, for me, the most impressive one. Because we are all, I'm very happy because of that, using digital payments. And digital payments are our daily life. But digital payments are for big dimension of digital platforms to pay and to use. And because of the national flag for each of the European protagonists, we don't have an Airbus of the digital payments, because the financial markets are national. And we, the Europeans, will never pay with a French credit card, never. The French will never pay with a German credit card. The German will never pay with a Spanish credit card. And we are all happy to pay only with American credit cards. If you give a look to your wallet, you will see the name of a Spanish bank. But abajo, a la derecha, there are only 3 brands. And the 3 brands are all Americans. Why? Because for them, it's not California, Texas, Florida, it's US. One big. And this dimension makes them global. Our national dimension refrain us to be global. Why I present the report in that way? Because I'm trying to convince people that it is not an ideological battle. It's a topic of competitiveness. It's a topic of jobs. It's a topic of growth. And we have to be together, pro-Europeans, as I am, and sovereignists, as I am not. But we have to be together, because if we think that these topics are only for pro-Europeans, we are continuing with this suicide. We have to be together on that. This is why the solutions that I proposed in the report are solutions that are pragmatic solutions, like the one I would be more than interested in having your reactions on the virtual state 28. The idea to say it's impossible and we don't want to cancel the national legislations, for instance, on the business laws, that are 27. In Spain, you have also the regional differences. But it is clear that for an SME, it's very complicated, or for an international investor, it's very complicated. Today, there's a big request for simplification. One of the main topics is try to have a unique system, but this unique and simple system can exist only if we create a sort of 28th virtual state with its own business law that can be applicable everywhere in Europe with the possibility for a company to choose. It is not very far from the idea of Delaware. Delaware worked in the US. It was a great success to unify the US system. Why don't we think something similar? Knowing that in Europe we don't have one that can be the unification, but we can build it. And I think this topic in this audience, for me, it's fascinating to see which is your reaction to that, because it is clear that on these topics today we are having an enormous problem of credibility of Europe. How many people are coming to you, telling you, but it's a mess. It's a mess. Working at European level is complicated, it's bureaucratic. The French, they use this term that I like very much, le millefeuille, with this, that is not gâteau, but it's this level, multiplication of level at European, national, regional, local, that is creating so many problems and so many difficulties. So I wanted to add this example just to tell you how I'm trying to work with the report and in the proposals. All the proposals are proposals in the report that are very pragmatic because I work with the present treaties. This is another point that I wanted to underline to you. All the proposals are without any treaty change. Is it because I think that the treaties are perfect? No, I don't think the treaties are perfect. There are many issues where, for instance, on taxes, I think the treaties are not perfect because we have this unanimity on taxes that is really a suicide. On education, working in universities, I know very well all the difficulties we have today to have a European degree. We don't have un diploma europeo. The mutual recognitions of degrees, maybe they are a fantastic opportunity for lawyers to work, but it's a mess for our young students, our young people. It's a mess in terms of competitiveness and lack of competitiveness, because we don't have it. And because of the fact that education is a national competence, without any European competence. Delors invented the Erasmus, but invented the Erasmus not through education, because education was national. Delors invented the Erasmus through the single market. So the free circulation of people. And Erasmus was the great success that we all know very well. I wanted to end up, because I'm here, as I told you, first of all, to listen and to listen to your comments and reactions. But I would like to end up with one point that is for me fundamental. The key issue today, after what is happening at world level, is not different from the recipes that I wrote in the report and that Draghi wrote in the report. There's a big acceleration because of what is happening at world level. It is clear that this acceleration is the acceleration due to the fact that we need to be more autonomous and more independent. And we need to be autonomous and independent on all these aspects. And we need also to elaborate another point that is for me crucial, is the concept of security. Security today is what we need to have. And security, as I mentioned, doesn't mean only weapons. Security is a broader term. And for us, security means the fact that we have to be in a security mood at European level. And that means, of course, that the integration of all the different aspects that I mentioned is today a vital, existential mission for all of us and for the European Union. The big risk, of course, is to present ideas, to have ideas, but to have also the European member states continuing to think that on this different aspect they can take some advantage of being fragmented. We need to have a big push, and this big push needs to be a big push coming from all the stakeholders, the experts, the civil society. Here, what is present here is playing a fundamental role. And at the same time, it is very important to push national governments to be what I mentioned before, and to clearly say, if in 20 we agree on something, we have to go, without waiting to be 27. Then the others will come. And sometime, I was in politics, I know that sometimes you say no because you have to say no. You say no because you have a constituency, and you have to show your constituency that you are fighting. And sometimes you need to have someone at the top going, even if you say no. And I think the best example is Mercosur. The agreement with Mercosur is a good agreement, in my view. It's a good track. Some countries were against. France was against. My own country was partially against. And I think von der Leyen took the right decision to say, we go, because there's a general interest to go. In the moment in which our relationship with the US are in trouble, we need to be open at world level with Mercosur, with ASEAN, with South Africa, with many other parts of the world. And we have to work in that direction. We have to be proud of our values, of our strength, and of the fact that people want to trade with us and to interact with us. And we have to do it in that direction. I end up with another final point that is, in my view, fundamental. I mentioned simplification. And today this is one of the reasons why companies are upset with Europe. The economic world is upset with Europe. And for instance, I strongly believe that a big battle to eliminate directives and to move to regulations, it is time to go in that direction. Directive means, and I'm not talking about Spain, I'm talking about my own experience, because as you mentioned, I was in my country minister for the single market. And I know how the public administration worked. When you know that the relationship on how to regulate one issue is like el match de ida y vuelta de la Copa del Rey. Hay un primer partido y un segundo partido. You play the first match knowing that there's a second match. And the first match is the match in Brussels. If you know that the second match is at home and you play alone, of course, you have a behavior in the first match that is different. And this problem is bigger and bigger because of another topic that I would be very happy to have your reactions on that. That is the, in my view, bad mood of the excessive politicization of the Commission. The fact that today the Commission is too much in a political mood, at the end of the day, is a problem. Because, for instance, in the last 10 years, the European Commission didn't sanction countries for the bad implementation of the directives. And countries, they know that the Commission won't sanction them. And so you can play in the first match in an easy way because that you know the second match you play at home. And you play at home as you wish. So the key point is exactly the opposite of the single market, because at the end of the day, you create a mess. It is not a level playing field. And the single market works if one company goes in another country knowing that the system is the same, that is the same in which these companies used to work. So I insisted on this point, and I'm very vocal on this point, and I insist on this aspect, knowing that today the battle is there, and we are in an incredibly positive alignment of planets. I never saw in my 30 years of European experience an alignment of planets like the one we have today. And the last planet aligned was, of course, the planet that is in Washington, D.C. Because today, with the pressure coming from Donald Trump, I think some countries are changing their approach. I tell you that this last image, I was last Monday in Copenhagen. Denmark, when the BRICS were in, Denmark was the couple, UK and Denmark, always against, always breaking, slowing down, avoiding more integration. After Brexit, the Danes started changing their mind, and after the ideas of Trump on Greenland, they are completely changing their mind. I can tell you that I was impressed by my visit in Copenhagen one week ago. What they told me, I make you laughing. I was in the Danish parliament, and a conservative leader took the floor after my presentation, and he said, the Danish, and he said, I will speak in French. And he said, Monsieur le Général de Gaulle, nous devons des excuses. Vous aviez raison. Il faut être indépendant et autonome des États-Unis. Frankly speaking, for me, it was such an incredible moment to listen that and to see what is happening in the country that will take the leadership of the European Union, the semester presidency in July. And I'm sure that the Danish presidency will be a surprise in terms of, because they are experts, they are competent, they know how to work, and they are today in the good direction. So there's an alignment of planets. We can go in the right direction, and we can give also trust to our people, doing the right things, and also to the rest of the world. Because I want to say that the rest of the world is expecting us as defenders of the rule of law and being able to try to apply all these decisions in the best way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Letta. Your intervention has provided us with a clear, urgent, and forward-thinking vision of what is at stake in Europe today. Your report is not just a strategic document, it is a wake-up call. A call to rethink the role of the single market, but also to reimagine Europe's place in the world. This is not business as usual. We are witnessing a global shift. The return of war to the European continent, the race for technological supremacy, the fragility of global supply chains, and the growing competition between powers challenges the way we have understood integration, prosperity, and security. The world is scaling and accelerating. While the United States and China invest massively in innovation, defense, and artificial intelligence, Europe risks being caught in between, ambitions in its words, but slow in its capacity to act. And yet, we strongly still believe in the European project. We believe that Europe can be more than a market, that it is a community of values, of rights, of vision, but that requires leadership, political, economic, and also regulations. As members of the legal profession, we understand that no major transformation can happen without a strong regulatory foundation. But we also know that behind every rule, there is a choice. And now it is the time to make choices, strategic, collective, and courageous ones. This is why today's dialogue matters, because beyond the headlines and the numbers, there is a deeper question. How do we shape a Europe that is not only competitive and resilient, but also just, united, and sovereign? Professor Letta, you've traveled across Europe. You've listened to voices from every corner of the Union, and you've brought back not only a diagnosis, but a vision. So now, allow me to open this conversation with you to explore your reflections on the global landscape, on the risk we must confront, and on the tools we have or must create to ensure that Europe continues to be a global force for balance, stability, and progress. Let's begin. So, your report strongly highlights the need for greater European strategic autonomy. From your perspective, what recent developments in the global arena most clearly reveal Europe's current vulnerabilities, and how should we face them?
I think the first vulnerability is technological vulnerability. I think it is clear that the possibility from the US side to invest a lot of private capitals in the technological world is making the difference. Why they are winning the battle of artificial intelligence and space? Two topics that are the most important one. They are winning not with public money. They are winning because of private capitals. This is the big change in the last years. Because we were used to think, when you think space, you think NASA. You think space, you think the European Space Agency. You think artificial intelligence, you think all the public investments. In reality, in the last 10 years, they were able to multiply 4 times what they spent on R&D and innovation. And it is incredible, because in 10 years, multiplying for 4, that means un montón de dinero. In my view, this is the most interesting point, because it is the reason why I mentioned at the very beginning of everything, the fact that for me, the core of everything is the integration of financial markets. Because if we are not able to scale on that, we will continue without, how we say, the energy and the engine. We will continue asking money to the banks. That is the way in which usually our companies work. And this is not enough. I think this is the main problem we have today. And this is vulnerability, answering your question, because they are able, take the example of ahorros, of savings. We have 27 fragmented markets, small markets, because yes, the Spanish one is big enough, the Italian one is big enough, the German one is big enough, but then you have all the other countries. They are small, but very small. And then you have a 27 fragmented market of savings. The Americans have one, and the difference is that we send the US market 300 billion euros, millones de euros, each year, our savings going to the US, and the US market is different from ours. Our market is more conservative. Their market is a market transforming savings in shares of companies. That means in energy for companies. So our savings, they go there, they are transformed in energy for the American companies that fly back to Europe and buy our European companies with our own money. That is the final paradox of everything, because we know what is happening. On space, for instance, in Europe, we have full of very good startup, very good small enterprises, spin-off from universities or from... They are very good. The problem is that once they grow up, there's an American fund arriving, ponendo sobre la mesa un montón de dinero. At the end of the day, they sell. And this is what is happening on all the different aspects. And this is the reason why I strongly think that we have to work in that direction. We have to change the direction, and this is the only way to stop this vulnerability.
Thank you. How can the European Union reconcile its transatlantic alliance with the United States and the growing need to act independently in areas such as defense, technology, and energy? Should we act assuming that the alliance will no longer be valid or the same?
No, I think the alliance, I think we have to keep the alliance alive. And I think the relationship with the US is a fundamental relationship for the future. First of all, because I don't think that Trump will be an eternal president. But also because the alliance with the US is a structural one, and I'm sure that this alliance will continue. The key point is being independent and autonomous doesn't mean that we are against the US. We are in a positive alliance, but we need to be independent and autonomous. It's the only way. But I have to say, it's the only way also to treat with Trump. It's so clear that Trump negotiates when he finds something strong on the other side. It is clear that he likes Putin. He likes Putin because Putin is strong. He likes the Chinese because they are strong. About Greenland and Denmark, he thinks that is... And I think we have to be strong, not only because of Trump, because of ourselves. But we can. There are so many topics where we are. And for instance, trade, in this very day, is the place where we are strong. And we are strong thanks to our fathers and mothers. I think we have to raise a monument to those who created the European Union and those who decided to give Brussels the monopoly of the trade policies. Can you imagine today Trump and 27 member states independent in their foreign trade? it would be a disaster. It would be like una mosca nella marmellata, we say in Italian. I think you understand. So the key point is that thanks to the fact that we had this decision today on trade, we are able to react all together, as in is the only way with what is happening in these very days. And reacting all together is also the only way because we are at the European level in different member states very integrated. Take, for instance, the car systems. Trump is attacking the German cars. He has in mind that Mercedes is the devil and Audi, Volkswagen the same. So he's attacking the German cars. I remember some days ago, someone in Italy very happy because of that and say that, wow, finally the Germans will be, and they will understand, and we are safe. Then the workers and the SMEs in the automotive sectors told them how big is the part, is the average of each German car that is built in Italy. That is 1/3. That means if the German cars are destroyed by Trump aranceles, the consequence on Italy will be a disaster. And the same with Spain. You have the number two automotive industry after the German one in Spain. And so I think it is important to understand that we are all together. And this is not the problem, okay, he will attack the camembert, so we are safe. We are all together in that, and we have to react all together. Finally, we have to understand that we are all together.
In today's fragmented world, where regional powers are reasserting themselves and global governance seems weaker than ever, how can the European Union avoid being sidelined in major geopolitical negotiations?
We have to be open, and at the same time, we have to understand that the world today is moving. The world is changing. This year, 25, all the attention is on these days, Trump, the fight between Trump and the European Union and what is happening with Ukraine. We are all forgetting that this year is a fundamental year in the world history. It's the first time that an African country is leading the G20. South Africa is leading the G20 this year. Their program is a very interesting one. They are doing very interesting things. And it is fundamental for us, the Europeans, for instance, to spend energies on that. What is my big worry today is the following one. We had this tragic experience of Brexit. Brexit, in my view, was really a tragedy. It was a tragedy for many reasons. But the most important one is the fact that Brexit means an extraordinary waste of energies, money, attention. For 8 years, we were all, them and us, focusing on that, wasting energy. And if you have to focus on one topic, the other topics are less prioritarian. This is the normal way in which we live. And today, my big worry is that we are starting a transatlantic war that will do the same, that will have the same consequence of Brexit. So for years, only focused on this transatlantic relationship to try to defend ourselves, with the consequence of not investing in what is necessary, that is the rest of the world. We have to think that in the next 10 years, it's a very easy forecast. India will be the next China. So we'll have China, and we will have another China. And then we will have another China and another India, that is Indonesia. And then this is the world of the next 20, 30 years. it is already clear, because demography is the perfect science. We know everything with demography. And we know that India will be the next, Indonesia will be the other one, and we will declining. So we know it, and we have to act in that direction.
The report calls for a more unified approach to digital, financial, and energy markets. What are the main obstacles to achieving this deeper integration?
I think it is clear that the main obstacle is the inertia, is the national inertia. Because the present situation is a situation in which we are losing ground, we are wasting opportunities, but there's also someone who is having more advantages than the dimension that he has. I don't want to make examples, but you can imagine what I think. And today the big problem is, the big responsibility is in the hands of the big European countries. We have to make an agreement among the 5 big countries and to say we have to go. Now we have to integrate. Because if we wait to be 27 on all the different aspects, it will be impossible. And we need the 5 to go. And I think this is, on the financial side, the Spanish minister met his counterparts some days ago in Brussels. The 5 are, they seem to be determined to go. And I think and I hope they will go. So my key point is that I saw the Commission on the financial, on the energy, where the topic is the interconnections, the networks, the grid, is the main problem, because on energy we are very good if we are able to interconnect our systems. Because it's clear that we don't have oil, we don't have gas, but if we are interconnected, we can take advantage of the diversity of the sources of energy. And this diversity of sources of energy can give us every day el más barato. But to do so, we need interconnections. If we don't have in the Pyrenees an interconnection, everything is done. So there are so many aspects in there. And I think on this aspect we have to go.
Let's go to defense and sovereignty. Europe has always relied heavily on NATO for collective defense. Do you think the debate on European strategic autonomy risks duplicating efforts, or is it finally about building credible capacity to act when NATO is not enough?
I'm happy to be obliged to talk of this topic here in Spain. I'm an Italian in Spain, and our 2 countries are the 2 countries which are at the center of the problem, I think. For a very simple reason. There are 2 aspects that we share. First, somos en la clasifica, in the ranking, we are in the final positions on how much we spent. We risk to go in a 2nd division. We are in the, come si dice, descenso.
Segunda división.
Italy and Spain, we are 1.3, 1.4, in a moment in which the discussion is not to pass through 2%, is to go up to 3 and maybe 3.5. That means something impossible for our countries, for the internal political debate, and for the fact that to get at national level with the debt that we have, we Italians more than the Spanish debt, but we have all a big debt, it's absolutely impossible to solve at national level, because it means multiplying for 2 what we spend. Frankly speaking, I don't see how it's possible to do it in the next years. First. Second, there's a total lack of awareness of the threat. I'm spending some time now in Spain, so I'm sorry if I'm arrogant to say I understand that what you are feeling, but maybe you will tell me I'm wrong. My feeling is that in Spain and in Italy, la conciencia de la amenaza es zero. We feel that, yes, we have to do it because the Baltics, because of Finland. But we are so far from this threat that we don't think that this threat is real. And in reality, the problem is not a geographical, being geographically close, because we know very well what does it mean, the asymmetric threat, the technological threat, and all the rest. The fact that we are all with the presence of those who want Brexit. Now we understood why Brexit was influenced by Russian and many other. And they were right, because with Brexit they created a mess in Europe. And the same is for our other. So I think on these topics, the big risk is to lack awareness, to be in big difficulty because of our national finances. So is another reason to be pragmatic and to say to the left and to the right, the only way is to do it at European level. Because at national level, in countries like Italy and Spain, it is impossible. It is impossible. It is impossible for Italy or Spain to open a budget discussion, in Spain more problematic because of the budget, open a budget discussion saying that, okay, now we decide to put 30 billion euros more on defense, and we take it from welfare, from services, from... It's impossible. So the only way is to do it at European level, to convince the member states to have European fiscal capacity. I think the von der Leyen plan is good, but maybe we have to be more courageous in doing something together and not only allowing to overcome the Stability Pact, because it is always going in the direction that I mentioned before, and we need to have it as common tools. It's the only way. There are no other ways. In my report, I put one proposal. I was surprised because it was the proposal that was totally, I would say, in a corner without any influence. That was the way to use the ESM. The ESM, the European Stability Mechanism, Spanish I think is MEDE. So the tool that we created during the crisis for emergencies, and we didn't use it. Why don't we use it? It exists. It's a big building in Luxembourg, a lot of people working to do nothing, full of money. So my proposal is very simple. We use it for the funding on defense. Why don't we why don't we go in that direction? So we have to be creative. We have to use these tools. It's absolutely necessary.
Why don't we use it?
We don't use it for the fact that, for instance, the Germans, in their internal electoral campaign, they said, we are not ready to use common tools on that. Now they are moving, but at the beginning they were very in opposition to that. Until now, we didn't go in that direction because my own country didn't ratify El MEDE, the ESM, because the ESM has a stigma. It's considered as the bad tool of the financial crisis, a sort of bad IMF and they don't want to ratify it. So all different countries with a very small internal political approach that is totally useless, and the consequence is not, we don't use a sort of una cassaforte. I don't know how to say it in... but I think it is absolutely fundamental to use these tools and to do it together.
Thank you. If you could propose just one symbolic yet concrete action that the European Union should adopt immediately to relaunch the European project, what would it be?
I think this idea of the 28th virtual state is the idea. If we are good in going in that direction, is the idea to say we overcome the differences, we give people a tool, a positive tool that can be positive for the people. Because at the end of the day, you will have people saying that, okay, I have something useful for me. This is the key point. We need to have at the European level tools that people can comment at home during dinner. Look what the European Union did. It's good for me. And the same for this La Unión de Ahorros e Inversiones. That is one of the proposals of the report. The Commission launched this proposal. Commissioner Albuquerque presented it. And for instance, one part of that is to create La Unión de Ahorros. What does it mean? Giving the people, the savers, the possibility to have a better return today. Today, our returns are lower of what in the US you can have. Because at the end of the day, we are not organized and we are not working on that. So the idea to create a Unión de Ahorro, giving returns that are better, is something that can be very well perceived and received. These are concrete tools, and these concrete tools can be welcomed by the people.
In your book, you warned of the rise of nationalism and populism as existential threats to European project. How do you assess the situation today? Do you believe the European Union has done enough to build a genuine European identity?
On populism and nationalism, I think we have to today also to try to have an approach that can be a little bit more positive. I don't want to be misunderstood, but the point is that some years ago, all the populists in the different European countries, they had in mind to propose Italexit, Brexit, Frexit, Dexit, because Brexit was a big brand, positive one, and Brexit won. And so we had in all the different countries this exit approach. Not in Spain, because you are wise, you are a great country, so Spexit didn't exist. But in Italy, Italexit existed. In France, Frexit existed. Dexit existed. Today, all these crazy ideas are no more there. Are no more there. Even the populist parties are today thinking that at the end of the day, Europe is there. And es insustituible. It's better to be in discussing on how to work on the different European tools. I see it as a big step. And I think we have to consider it as an improvement. And I am absolutely sure that we have to involve all the different parties. Because when you have a party involved, this party knows that there's this reality principle. The reality principle is more important than any other aspect. And today, the reality principle with Trump attacking Europe with tariffs is so clear. Can you imagine today a populist party in one of our countries taking the Trump flag the day after the tariffs that will kill jobs, growth, room for our SMEs. It is clear that what is happening in Canada will happen also in the European countries. In Canada, the friends of Trump, they were close to win the elections. Now things are changing a lot. Can you imagine someone in Denmark saying that we are for Trump? Finished. Because Trump's discourse is a discourse for his own constituency, for those who voted for him. He's not trying to find any consensus with the rest of the US population and with the rest of the Western world. We are not voting for him or against him. So his idea is to have the third term, so he speaks with the voters for this third term. And it is clear that we have to consider it as a fact, and we have to move.
Your report was presented just some months ago, but we know how quickly the international context can shift. Now, in your book, Europa, Última Oportunidad, you revisit similar themes. What new insights or proposals does the book offer that were not covered in your previous report?
But for instance, there's something that I evolved in my elaboration, that is, in the report, I put 2 lines, no more than that, but we were April last year, and frankly speaking, it seemed to me that these 2 lines were even too much, and the 2 lines were the creation of a common market for defense with the UK. Today, I think that we have to create a common market of security with the UK, Norway, and Iceland, and we have to do it very quickly. And there's room to do it. Security in a broader term. You know, the relationship with the UK is a very interesting message to all of us. It's the demonstration that Trump is no es invincible. Trump makes miracles. After 8 years of Brexit, after this divorce with questo divorzio con il Regno Unito, 2 months of Trump, and we are married together after the divorce. I think it is absolutely unique what is happening.
In your new book, you discuss the double pressure Europe faces from the United States and Russia. Could you elaborate on the nature of these pressures and their implications for the European Union sovereignty? And is China the elephant in the room?
The book for me is a very interesting tool because it's the way to discuss not only in the group of experts, but really with citizens. And I had many discussions in France because the book was published in France, in Italy, of course, and I'm very happy to have discussions in Spain. I will discuss about the book in the different cities in Spain, trying to do it in Spanish. But the key point is that, for instance, you mentioned China. A very easy forecast. China will take advantage of all this mess. That is so easy to say. Because this mess is a mess between us and the US, mostly. And China will take advantage of that. And we know very well that we'll take advantage because we will be obliged to reopen a little bit the channel of communication with China. And it is something that we have to do with very, how we say, we have to be very cautious on that. But it is clear that it is part of this situation. So I think it is important to know that in the present world, that is a very globalized and interconnected world, each action has consequences. And this is not like years ago or decades ago, where you saw consequences after 5 years or 10 years. I can tell you one final image or episode. We were, with my colleagues, deans of the School of International Affairs in the US some weeks ago, discussing with all the deans of the biggest American universities. They were all there, Columbia, Stanford, and so on. And Trump was there, just arrived. So not 5 years, 10 years. And they told us that they saw immediately the consequences. And I think the main consequence for them will be this, the most, I would say, suicide action of Trump, that is to say to the rest of the world the opposite of what the US told the world in the last century. The US won the 20th century because they told the world, come to us. We share with you the American dream. You come to Europe, and if you are good, if you want to work, the American dream will be your dream. That was an incredible message, an incredible winning message. The message of Trump is to tell to the world, please stay home. Don't come to the US. We don't want you. And this message is a message that today is scaring students, professors, scholars, people in the tech world. All our colleagues told us, you have an enormous opportunities. Because if you create a good environment to attract people, you can, first of all, attract a lot of professors that are today in the US and that want to leave the US. And then you can attract students, because it is clear that today, for a student that has to think to spend his next 3-4 years, is it for him a certainty to have 4 years of stability of the migration rules of the US? It is so clear that it is not like that. Even for Europeans, can you imagine for students coming from Indonesia or from Bolivia? It is clear that it will be a mess. And it's clear that we have a great opportunity. So for me, the answer to your question, giving you this episode, is just to tell you that it is something that is happening and having consequences now. Not in 5 years' time. Now, on this academic year, they gave us the figures of the declining of the number of... and so I think it is the demonstration that we are living in a globalized world. It is not true, absolutely not true, that globalization is finished. Globalization is there because everything is connected. And what is happening is having consequences. And these consequences, we have to be able to manage these consequences. And we have to be aware of that and being able to take the right decisions.
So thank you very much. We will be listening to you the whole afternoon, but I think we should give a little rest to Professor Letta. Thank you very much for your impressive speech.
Thank you.
And approach. And please give an applause to him.
Thank you.
After the impressive speech by Professor Letta, we will begin our roundtable with renowned professionals in the fields of telecommunications, strategic autonomy, and critical raw materials, energy, and defense. To this end, let me introduce our panelists for today. Don Pablo de Carvajal González, Secretary General and to the Board Global Regulatory Affairs Directorate of Telefónica. Mrs. Carlota García Encina, Senior Researcher in United States and Transatlantic Relations at the Real Instituto Elcano and lecturer in International Relations. Mr. José Manuel Gutiérrez Delgado, ex-state lawyer or state lawyer on leave, Head of International Arbitration Department at the Spanish State Attorney's Office, and State Attorney before the Supreme Court, Director General of Legislative Policy and International Legal Cooperation, and Spain's representative in the European Union. And Mr. Hermenegildo Altozano, partner at Vincent & Mason, energy expert and specialist in mergers and acquisitions, projects and transactions, both locally and internationally, especially in Latin America. Thank you very much to all for being here today with us. Each of them will begin their presentation by stating their position with regard to their respective vision of the European project in their area of specialization. After that, we will follow with a round of specific questions, and finally, time permitting, we will open the floor to questions from the audience. Mr. Pablo de Carvajal begins his presentation on the telecommunications market. Please.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this interesting meeting. Well, the year 2024 marks a turning point. Mr. Letta has explained us in here and in his report, and also Mr. Draghi with his report. So they have made a very clear diagnosis. Europe is losing competitiveness. We are lagging behind the United States, and China is catching us up. And what is also important to outline is that the sense of urgency. We have to act, and we have to act quickly, because, of course, we can not change the facts, but we can stop decline. So that's the idea, to stop decline. The Commission, I think, is in that idea. They, or at least what I have seen is that they are in a different mood. All the commissioners to which we have talked, they think they have to move. And, you know, they have transformed your report and Mr. Draghi's report in this competitiveness compass, where they outline two things: regulatory simplification. They don't say deregulation, they say simplification, because, you know, in Brussels, deregulation is a sin. And also, you know, for us, for European, it's true that, we think regulation is necessary. So, and, of course, an investment-friendly public policies to channel resources into strategic infrastructures and sectors that will define our prosperity. So those are the two levers that the Commission has allowed. I think the telco sector is critical for all this, because, as Mr. Letta said, technology is key. We are not in an era of changes, we are in a change of era. We are in the middle of a technological revolution, so technology is key. And what is the telco sector doing? Well, we are shifting our networks. You have heard about the 5G. We don't have right now 5G. We have 4.5G, 4.8G. So we need to heavily invest in 5G. Fiber, because, well, the game changer is the ultra-low latency that will bring autonomous vehicles, smart factories, remote healthcare, and so on. So, on the one side, the 5G, we are also softwareizing our networks, so that will shift the traditional telecom network functions from dedicated hardware to cloud-based environments. So that means a capacity of computing at the edge of the network. We will collect a lot of data, trillions of data, and process them, and we can launch services with all of that. So we are changing the network, and we also are selling network as a service. So, for example, this GSMA is a worldwide association of telco companies that we are trying to standardize our network, so the application developers can plug in one of them and have the same capacity or the same services in all the world. So, and this means all of these changes, the capacity of investment. What's the problem? That as a sector, we don't have the capacity of investment because we are too much fragmented. That's the telco, and we are too much fragmented in Europe. As you said, there are in Europe one operator for every 5 million people. In the United States, one operator for 100 million people, and in Asia, one operator for 300 million people. So we don't have the scale. And so that's why now 80% of Europe's digital technologies are imported. And it's true that not only Elon Musk can unplug us, but also Apple can unplug us because the operating system is theirs. Google can unplug us. So, you know, if we don't react, we are going to be a colony. So that's very clear in technology. So, and why we are so lagging behind the United States? Well, because Europe architectural legal system has provoked that. Our networks have been expropriated. The use of our networks have been expropriated. So, you know, an investor without investing can use our networks, and then they can grow with millions of clients, and then sell the company, and then, you know, if another telco buys, they have to rearm another startup that does the same, so it's the same process. So in the telco sector, prices have been going down for 20 years in a row, which is quite exceptional. So now this has to change, and it's a combination of ex-ante regulation and also of competition policies, because then the ICAM doesn't allow this consolidation process. They oblige you to, through remedies, create another startup telco that does the same, and so is again the same process. What is the Commission doing? Well, I think is on the part of the competition policy, we don't know, because I think the DG competition, or DGCOM, as we call them, they have the same ideas. They think that the way they review the markets and they assess the transactions that are put on their table are right, and we will see if the von der Leyen mission letter and let's say the von der Leyen program will change their mind. But on DG Connect, things are changing. They are trying to draft Digital Networks Act that will, let's say, soften the regulation, and also, which is very important, will harmonize the rules for spectrum granting and spectrum auctions, because, well, in the telco market, the problem is that the telco markets are national. They are not European. Each European country has its own regulator. The spectrum is state-owned, and so they are national. So an homogenization of the spectrum is necessary. They are dealing with it, and deregulation. Also, they are tackling this problem with OTTs, the asymmetry in the relationship with them, that all the technological or the telco companies have. They are very powerful, they have power negotiations, so they use our networks for free. And so we are trying to make them pay for the use of our networks. So all of these issues, we think that will be tackled in the Digital Network Act. We will see how this evolves, but at least we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that is, let's say, the situation of the telco sector, which I think is key for technology. And is open to questions. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Pablo. Me avisan que podemos seguir la mesa redonda, lo siento, Pablo, en español, si os sentís más cómodo, dado el excelente nivel del señor Letta. Seguimos, si os parece, con José Manuel Gutiérrez, que nos hablará de la autonomía estratégica y los materiales críticos.
Bueno, buenas tardes. ¿En español, entonces?
Sí, sí, como queráis, como que sí, sí.
Lo que me digáis.
As you wish.
It's the same. I prepare in English, but it's the same for me.
Podemos hacer
So
en español,
for
sí.
Professor Letta, if it's more comfortable in English, and we can do this in
clase.
English and afterwards.
Es la manera de hacer una clase.
Sorry?
Una manera de hacer una clase de español para mí. Entonces,
Okay.
Bueno, en español entonces.
Sí.
Bien, como queráis. Bueno, pues buenas tardes. Muchas gracias al Colegio y en especial a la División Internacional del Colegio por organizar este evento y por invitarme. La verdad es que hablar después del profesor Letta sobre estas materias pues puede ser un poco temerario por mi parte, ¿no? Espero que no sea una tontería, pero simplemente sea temerario. Pero bueno, haré mis mejores esfuerzos. Me ha chocado la cita que ha hecho del Elon Musk, porque a mí también me llamó la atención cuando la leí extremadamente, la frase de que if I shut Starlink down, the Ukrainian front will collapse. Si estamos hablando de lo que es autonomía estratégica, yo creo que esto sería la perfecta definición de la dependencia estratégica, porque es exactamente lo contrario, es lo que tenemos que evitar, es lo que no tenemos que hacer y es de lo que tenemos que huir y ante lo que tenemos que reaccionar. Yo tuve la suerte de estar en la representación permanente de España ante la Unión Europea el segundo semestre del 2023, durante la presidencia española allí, y uno de los objetivos de la presidencia española fue la autonomía estratégica. O sea que ya entonces se tenía esto en mente. Ya existía la guerra de Ucrania, pero para ser totalmente sinceros, en aquellos momentos estaba más enfocado hacia aspectos de mercado interior, hacia aspectos de competencia con Estados Unidos, con la Inflation Act y con las medidas que estaba tomando Estados Unidos entonces para favorecer su industria y sus productos. Es decir, el diálogo era un poco más, si nosotros protegemos demasiado y regulamos demasiado nuestro mercado, puede ser que no seamos competitivos comparado con el exterior. Bueno, esto habría que desarrollarlo mucho, pero como enunciado nos baste. Sin embargo, cuando ahora hablamos de autonomía estratégica, las cosas han cambiado muchísimo, ¿no? En año y medio apenas el panorama ha cambiado completamente y ahora estamos pensando en otra cosa cuando hablamos de autonomía estratégica. Para empezar, hemos incorporado defensa aeroespacial, cosa que en aquellos momentos no se hablaba, desde luego, de la defensa prácticamente nada y de la aeroespacial muy poco. El problema de la autonomía estratégica, y paso ahora ya a la segunda o a la especificación de mi ponencia, que sería el tema de las critical raw materials, es que principalmente tienen dos problemas, que están muy concentradas en su producción. China tiene el 70% de la producción global de tierras raras a día de hoy, Indonesia tiene el 50% del níquel, Australia el 50% del litio, y están muy concentradas en determinados países. Nosotros las necesitamos mucho para determinadas políticas europeas, como es la Green Transition y la Digital Transition. Necesitamos para hacer baterías y coches eléctricos litio, níquel y cobalto, y necesitamos galio para los semiconductores, y necesitamos titanio y tungsteno para la industria aeroespacial y de defensa. Eso lo producen muy pocos países, como digo, el 50% del cobalto de la producción industrial lo produce la República Democrática del Congo, y así sí vamos analizando una tras otra. Y además estos países tienen cierta inestabilidad en el suministro, por muchas razones, a veces razones políticas, a veces razones de guerra, a veces razones puramente comerciales. Pero el caso es que se convierte en un suministro que puede ser inestable tanto en su frecuencia como en su precio hacia arriba y hacia abajo, lo cual quiere decir que los necesitamos para las políticas que nos hemos embarcado, pero son inestables en su suministro, no tenemos garantizado ese suministro. Ese es el problema que hay con las critical raw materials. La Comisión Europea ha clasificado 34 que denomina Critical Raw Materials y 16 que denomina Strategic Raw Materials, que digamos tienen una visión más estratégica, no solo necesarias para todo tipo de industria o para todo tipo de políticas, sino para una visión más estratégica que podrían ser necesarias. Y el comercio mundial de todo esto se ha duplicado en los últimos 2 años y llegado a 300.000 millones de euros en el último año, con lo cual quiere decir que está explotando en todo el mundo, que lo necesitamos, que está muy sujeto a cambios y que es bastante inestable. O sea, un panorama realmente complicado para estas materias que necesitamos. Voy a desgranar 7 puntos, podría haber escogido a lo mejor 9 o 5, pero bueno, por poner algunos 7, que es un número cabalístico, ¿no?, en la tradición judeocristiana europea. Pues 7 puntos que se extraen básicamente del informe Letta y del informe Draghi, que quizá el informe Draghi hace un mayor estudio de la parte de critical raw materials, más que nada por la época, ¿no?, en que se hace posteriormente. La primera recomendación o la primera medida para poder luchar contra esta situación que he descrito al principio sería el regulatory framework, es decir, el marco regulatorio. En este aspecto, la Unión Europea ha promulgado la European Critical Raw Materials Act, que del año 2024, reglamento, regulation 1252 del 2024, que regula todas estas cuestiones y que incluye algunas de las medidas que paso también a hablar a continuación. La segunda es incrementar la producción interna de critical raw materials y el reciclaje. A diferencia de lo que pasa con los combustibles fósiles, que no hay en Europa, o hay muy pocos ya, pasada un poco la época del carbón, en critical raw materials sí tenemos en Europa, sí hay bastantes depósitos de determinadas critical raw materials, lo que hay es que ponerlos en explotación. Hacia eso van los 47 proyectos estratégicos que ha hecho la Comisión Europea, de los cuales 8 precisamente están en España, porque España es un país bastante rico en este tipo de materiales que ahora mismo necesitamos tanto. El tercer punto, la tercera medida, sería apoyar la diversificación en el suministro. Claro, si hemos dicho que el problema es que tenemos el suministro muy concentrado y encima es inestable, pues una medida obvia es abrir el abanico, que nos suministren esas critical raw materials más países, especialmente aquellos con los que tenemos un partnership, la Unión Europea, que tiene unos acuerdos de partnership que pueden resultar más estables y que pueden ser más durables en el futuro. La cuarta, simplificar los procedimientos de permitting, como se ha hecho, por ejemplo, en las energías renovables, en la construcción y la autorización de plantas de renovables, pues hacer algo parecido también en la obtención de materias críticas. El objetivo que señala la Comisión son 27 meses para los permisos de extracción y 15 meses para los permisos de procesado y reciclaje de estos minerales. La quinta medida sería impulsar el mercado único. Esto es algo que desarrolla el profesor Letta de una manera excepcional en su informe. La sexta medida, que también lo trata mucho el informe Letta, la coordinación entre aspectos públicos y privados para lograr una adecuada financiación de los proyectos, que eso todavía tiene mucho recorrido, como explicaba el profesor hace un momento al alza. Y la séptima medida sería garantizar el suministro energético sobre la base de un approach no limitado en la tecnología al suministro energético, sino buscar una diversificación de ese suministro de manera que sea abundante y barato, que son las dos cosas que se buscan en la energía. Por tanto, incluir en ese mix, por supuesto, las renovables de todo tipo, pero por supuesto también la energía nuclear, incluso con la investigación hacia la fusión nuclear, que puede dar un enorme salto en el suministro de energía. Nada más, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Don Hermenegildo Altozano, ¿continuaría usted con el mercado de la energía?
Pues con el mercado de la energía tenemos un gran problema, porque Europa tiene un adecuado marco regulatorio que dota de cierta estabilidad y previsibilidad y lanza las adecuadas señales económicas, pero resulta que la realidad está enteramente divorciada de ese marco regulatorio. Cuando venía para acá, estaba un poco ordenando las ideas sobre cuáles serían los retos principales que enfrenta el mercado europeo de la energía. En primer lugar, no existe un mercado europeo de la energía. Existen sistemas físicos regionales, incluso mercados de energía, que no son un mercado europeo de la energía. El mercado europeo de la energía, simple y llanamente, es una entelequia, no existe. Y no existe en muchísimas manifestaciones. No hay libertad de establecimiento. Hay una regulación de inversión directa extranjera aprobada con el pretexto de la protección de las empresas nacionales durante la pandemia, cuyo sustrato o justificación ha desaparecido, pero que se ha mantenido como instrumento para regular la entrada o para condicionar la entrada y evitar que se creen entidades transnacionales. No quiero traer a colación el ejemplo de aquella OPA frustrada de ON sobre Endesa, pero sí podríamos traer muchos otros ejemplos, incluso nacionales, que han frustrado esa creación del mercado interior de la energía. Otro elemento que ha conspirado en contra de la construcción de un mercado interior de la energía es que decisiones de carácter político adoptadas con criterios políticos por quienes carecen del conocimiento suficiente desde el punto de vista corporativo o económico para tomar esas decisiones, han condicionado el mercado europeo o el mercado de la energía en cada uno de los Estados miembros de la Unión Europea. La decisión del Gobierno de Alemania de no prolongar o de realizar un cierre anticipado, un decommissioning anticipado de las centrales nucleares y entregarse casi en exclusiva al suministro del gas ruso, ha originado, como todos conocemos, una turbulencia en los mercados europeos, donde a raíz de la invasión de Ucrania se produjo la siguiente circunstancia. El sistema de los precios en los mercados de electricidad sigue un criterio marginalista, de tal manera que la última central que tiene que entrar en operación es la que marca precio para todas las demás. Si miramos muchos de los países europeos, son los ciclos combinados los que entran en último lugar para cubrir esa demanda. Cuando un ciclo combinado tiene que comprar el gas de una manera urgente, sin una unificación en el poder de compra, porque no ha habido compras coordinadas de gas. Japón tiene muchísimo más poder de compra de gas que los países de la Unión Europea, porque no existe una compra centralizada de la Unión Europea. Existen compras separadas, cada uno hizo la guerra por su cuenta. Alemania instaló FSRUs, instalaciones flotantes de regasificación y almacenamiento. España tuvo su propia estrategia, tiene un contrato de suministro a largo plazo de gas con Argelia. Al mismo tiempo se produjo una circunstancia geopolítica que fue esa enemistad entre Argelia y Marruecos, de tal manera que el gasoducto que va el de Hassi Remel hasta Córdoba, que discurre por todo el norte del Magreb, en el tramo entre Argelia y Marruecos quedó interrumpido, de tal manera que el único cordón umbilical entre la península y el gas argelino era el gasoducto de Medgaz. Pues todo esto responde, como decía antes, a esas decisiones. Por otra parte, una apuesta en algunos casos muy, digamos, naif a favor de determinadas tecnologías en contra de otras tecnologías. Es decir, es magnífico. Ojalá que tuviéramos un parque de generación 100% renovable. Obviamente, entrando dentro de la energía dentro de la taxonomía de energías limpias, la energía nuclear, como quisieron los franceses, y así se hizo. Ojalá que tuviéramos, decía, un parque de generación 100% renovable. Pero hoy por hoy existe un problema, que es que, primero, no sabemos predecir cuándo va a soplar el viento o cuándo va a lucir el sol. Y es más, cuando se produce anticiclón, que es cuanta mayor electricidad se podría generar con la energía solar fotovoltaica, da la casualidad de que no suele soplar el viento y no tenemos esa capacidad de generación de energía eólica. Entonces se decía, vamos a hacer instalaciones de almacenamiento. Excelente, muy bien, perfecto, es la solución. ¿Cuál es el problema? Primero, falta de materiales para construir las baterías y, en segundo lugar, falta de capacidad de las redes para absorber esa demanda y esa generación que representa el almacenamiento. En eso estoy totalmente de acuerdo con el profesor Letta. Él decía que tenemos un problema gravísimo en Europa de interconexiones. No solo de interconexiones. Es curioso, entre España y Francia, la interconexión eléctrica, sobre todo porque los franceses no quieren, es del 8%. Es decir, únicamente el 8% de la energía producida en la península ibérica o en Francia puede transitar de uno a otro. El Reino Unido, con el Brexit, tiene más interconexión con Francia que la península ibérica. Es decir, desde el punto de vista del mercado interior de la energía, existe más interconexión entre el Reino Unido y Francia que entre España y Francia. ¿Qué ocurre? Pues que cuando llega el momento de construir instalaciones de interconexión, pues tenemos también otro elemento interesante, porque esto parece una gincana, las competencias de las comunidades autónomas que en un momento determinado deciden que, por mi parte de los Pirineos, con ese efecto NIMBY, not in my backyard, por mi parte de los Pirineos no quiero que se construya una línea de alta tensión que pueda interconectar el sistema eléctrico español con el sistema eléctrico francés. Otro problema añadido es también esa voluntad, yo digo que es encomiable y es excelente, como dicen mis amigos en América Latina, que qué bueno es tener problemas del primer mundo, ¿no? Qué bueno es tener problemas que consisten en que nuestra obsesión ahora mismo es la descarbonización. Y tenemos un programa que es el Fit for 55, que consiste que con Horizonte 2030 tendremos que haber reducido un 55% nuestras emisiones comparadas con 1990. O tenemos la Net Zero Industry Act, que también, utilizando esos mecanismos de desideratum político, nos sitúa en el Olimpo de 2050 con un 0% de emisiones de CO2 a la atmósfera. ¿Qué ocurre? Pues que para lograr ese objetivo se han introducido dos elementos que afectan directamente a la cuenta de resultados de las empresas, que es la reducción de los llamados ETS, los Environmental Trading System, es decir, los créditos de carbono, y al mismo tiempo la introducción, en este caso nosotros somos los que introducimos un arancel, los europeos, que se llama el Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, que consiste simple y llanamente en que aquellos productos baratos producidos fuera de la Unión Europea, pero con una mayor carbonización, porque son países que todavía no han transitado hacia ese primer mundo y, por tanto, siguen con un mix energético más contaminante, a esos productos les voy a gravar un arancel para impedir que las empresas que tienen que descarbonizarse puedan competir en igualdad de condiciones. ¿Cuál es el resultado de esa política? Pues que obviamente se están produciendo un doble flujo. Por una parte, deslocalizaciones de industrias que salen del ámbito de la Unión Europea a territorios donde las exigencias de descarbonización son todavía menores, y por otra parte, la imposibilidad de cumplir con los objetivos que marca la propia Unión Europea, otra vez, profesor Letta, por una razón física. Hablamos de CCUS, Carbon Capture, Utilization y Storage, es decir, captura de carbono, utilización y almacenamiento, y resulta que, vaya por Dios, no hay instalaciones de almacenamiento. Y resulta que nos retrasamos en otorgar instalaciones de almacenamiento. Es más, una instalación como el almacenamiento subterráneo de Castor, cerrado por razones políticas, en lugar de utilizarse para almacenar CO2, resulta que vamos a un desmantelamiento porque, a ver, ¿quién se atreve en una campaña electoral a decir que el almacenamiento de Castor se vuelve a abrir? Otro problema que tenemos es la falta de política industrial a la hora de fabricar componentes esenciales para el sector de la energía, particularmente de las energías renovables. ¿Quién fabrica las turbinas? ¿Quién fabrica los paneles solares? ¿Quién suministra el silicio para los paneles solares? Es que si cualquier promotor de una instalación de producción de energía eléctrica con tecnología renovable trata de obtener suministros en el mercado internacional, va a tener que mirar hacia China. Y China tiene unas condiciones, impone unas condiciones de suministro que hacen que la industria, que el parque de producción de energía eléctrica de la Unión Europea sea excesivamente dependiente de los suministros del exterior. Otro problema es el del permitting, es decir, toda la permisología que señalabas antes, que se convierte en una verdadera carrera de obstáculos. Esta mañana discutía un contrato de compraventa de unos proyectos de energía fotovoltaica con unos vendedores, y gran parte de la discusión estaba en la definición de lo que se llama el ready to build, es decir, cuándo se considera que un proyecto ha alcanzado el punto suficiente para que pueda empezar la construcción. Pues resulta que uno de los elementos fundamentales, no estamos hablando ni del Parlamento Europeo, ni de la Comisión Europea, ni del Consejo Europeo, ni del Gobierno de la Nación, ni de la Comunidad Autónoma. Estamos hablando de los ayuntamientos, que tienen que otorgar la licencia de obras y que tienen más preocupación por cobrar el ICIO y establecer cuál es la base imponible del ICIO que porque se cumpla ese gran objetivo de alcanzar en 2050 una descarbonización plena. Luego tenemos aquí la culpa, se la atribuyo 100% al Ministerio de Hacienda, que es que los precios de la electricidad para consumidores, y consumidores no pensemos únicamente en nosotros, pensemos también en pequeñas, medianas y en grandes empresas, con excepción de algunos consumidores electrointensivos que tienen un estatuto particular, pero es que resulta que los precios de la electricidad se han convertido en el lugar óptimo para alojar una multiplicidad de impuestos hasta el punto de que se llega al dislate de que un impuesto, que es el impuesto especial de la electricidad, se convierte en hecho imponible de otro impuesto, que es el impuesto del valor añadido. Por el lado de la demanda, yo me imagino que todos estamos escuchando estos días lo maravilloso que va a ser España como el lugar, y eso Pablo nos puede explicar, para la instalación de los data centers. Hay data centers prácticamente en todas las comunidades autónomas y todo el mundo habla de muchísimos proyectos de data centers. Tengo la suerte de estar trabajando ahora mismo en 2 proyectos de data centers. Desde el punto de vista de obtener la conexión como instalación de demanda a una red que no tiene capacidad, ese es el verdadero cuello de botella que va a impedir el desarrollo, por una parte, de demanda necesaria para absorber toda la sobrecapacidad de generación que hay con todos los proyectos de energías renovables que ya están aprobados y que tienen que conectarse con un horizonte temporal determinado en un momento. Y luego, segundo, es decir, ese cuello de botella desde el lado de la demanda, pero un cuello de botella desde el lado de la oferta, porque, como decía antes, no existen interconexiones suficientes para evacuar y para poder vender en otros países de la Unión Europea que pueden tener necesidad o una demanda de energía más barata y más limpia por culpa justamente de esa falta de decisión o de esa falta de una autoridad central que diga que las interconexiones se tienen que construir sí o sí. No me quiero extender, únicamente sí me gustaría agradecer al profesor Letta y también indirectamente a Mario Draghi los informes, porque me parece que estamos ante un enfermo, que es la Unión Europea, donde muy buenos médicos han hecho un excelente diagnóstico, pero resulta que no hay nadie para aplicar el tratamiento. Entonces, eso es lo que provoca frustración. Entonces, mientras resulta que Estados Unidos, con la presidencia de Trump, tiene un plan que nos gustará más o que nos gustará menos, pero es un plan, nosotros todavía estamos discutiendo si son galgos o si son públicos. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Y finalmente, doña Carlota Encina nos hablará de su visión sobre la defensa en Europa y la interconexión o la interrelación con la Alianza Atlántica.
Vale, muchas gracias. Approfitto, professor Letta, per parlare un po' in italiano. Grazie, questo è un piacere essere qui con lei. Ci siamo conosciuti 2 anni fa in Georgetown. Io ero con alcuni colleghi dell'Istituto Elcano e ricordo perfettamente che lei ci ha spiegato come stava lavorando in questo rapporto, e 2 anni più tardi io sono qua con lei a parlare, a cercare di dire qualche cosa intelligente sulla difesa europea. Grazie mille. Mil perdones, pero yo aprovecho la oportunidad que pueda para poder hablar en italiano y así no perder este idioma tan maravilloso. Yo voy a ser muy breve porque yo creo que también nos estamos pasando de tiempo, y si me permite también quería comentar 2 cosas que ha comentado antes el profesor Letta. Él ha mencionado que Italia y España somos los países que menos estamos invirtiendo en defensa, y que principalmente es por la percepción de las amenazas que tenemos. Yo creo que eso ha cambiado y yo tengo una visión algo diferente. Nosotros en el Instituto Elcano hacemos unas encuestas, y recuerdo perfectamente que en febrero del 2022 preguntamos aquí en la opinión pública española cuál era la principal amenaza para España. Sorprendentemente, más un 35%, o sea, el grupo más alto pensaba que era Rusia. Ese resultado, para la opinión pública española, que siempre piensa que la principal amenaza viene del sur, que viene de Marruecos o que viene del terrorismo internacional, fue una sorpresa. Es decir, la percepción de la amenaza que venía por Rusia y que estaba a punto de invadir a Ucrania, eso lo vimos en nuestras encuestas del Cano, y esto es algo que se ha mantenido además casi más o menos igual durante los 2 años, ¿no? Por lo tanto, yo creo que esa percepción sí que la hay. Por otro lado, yo creo que tanto España como Italia hacemos mucho énfasis en el que medir tu aportación a la seguridad colectiva en base solo al 10%, creo que no es la manera de evaluarlo, ¿no? Por ejemplo, pues Grecia tiene un gasto en defensa que es casi el 4% de su GDP. Y, sin embargo, ¿cuál es la aportación de Grecia a la defensa colectiva? Pues mucho menor. ¿Por qué? Porque en el caso de Italia o de España, nosotros estamos muy orgullosos de participar en todas y cada una de las operaciones de la OTAN, de la Unión Europea y también de Naciones Unidas, ¿no? Por lo tanto, valorar cuál es la aportación de un país a la defensa colectiva, nosotros insistimos que es algo más de medir solo ese 2%. Dicho sea eso, yo creo que sí, que tenemos que hacer un esfuerzo en defensa en Italia y evidentemente también en España. ¿Cuál es para mí el principal problema? No es la opinión pública, sino los que tienen que hablar con la opinión pública, que son los partidos políticos, tanto de la derecha como desde la izquierda. Hace poco hemos asistido a un debate en el Parlamento precisamente para subir esos presupuestos de defensa. De Ucrania no se habló, de la defensa tampoco, y de los presupuestos de defensa no. Entonces, yo creo que eso es lo que falta, ¿no? Que nos digan desde el púlpito, nos expliquen por qué tenemos que invertir más en defensa. Y yo estoy convencida que la opinión pública dirá sí. Además, hay otra cosa que nos avala, que es la opinión pública europea, ¿no? Los últimos datos, Eurobarómetro y muchas otras encuestas dicen que la mayoría de los europeos sí que están dispuestos o sí que quieren una Europa de la defensa, sí que hay que invertir más, ellos están dispuestos a ello. Y, por lo tanto, lo que sorprende es que parece que hay muchos impedimentos para una Europa de la defensa, pero por otro lado la opinión pública europea, y en el caso de la española también, sí que estamos a favor de una Europa de la defensa. Ha mencionado un tercer mandato de Trump. Yo quiero decir que no va a haber un tercer mandato de Trump, me puedo equivocar, porque lo dice la enmienda 22, porque es imposible que en el Senado haya una mayoría para cambiar la Constitución. Pero aparte de eso, yo creo que Trump es el presente y Vance es el futuro. Vance lo estamos viendo perfectamente. O escucha al jefe y dice lo que dice el jefe y da un paso más. Por lo tanto, se está posicionando perfectamente para ser el próximo candidato. ¿Eso nos da más seguridad? No lo sé. Yo no sé si tengo más miedo a Trump o a J.D. Vance, ¿no? Pero yo creo que un tercer mandato de Trump no lo vamos a ver. En defensa, me voy a centrar en 3 ideas y un poco más. Yo creo que el sector de la defensa, sobre todo, hay que subrayar que tiene 2 grandes peculiaridades. El papel de los Estados, y, por otro lado, el tema de la economía y de toda la dimensión tecnológica, ¿no? Que es muy importante. En el primer caso, bueno, porque en el sector de la defensa es el Estado el primer comprador de las capacidades militares. Esto hace que todas las consideraciones políticas y estratégicas y de seguridad nacional estén muy interconectadas con todas las decisiones que hay en las industrias de defensa. Por lo tanto, los estados históricamente han cambiado, han influido, han reestructurado y han desarrollado la industria de defensa, y eso es algo que todavía a día de hoy, a pesar de que hemos visto durante el pasado pues, las tendencias a las privatizaciones, pues vemos que el papel de los gobiernos sigue siendo importante y sigue teniendo un papel muy importante en la toma de decisiones dentro de las industrias de defensa. La segunda gran característica es el tema de las grandes inversiones que se necesitan, sobre todo por el tema de la dimensión tecnológica. El sector de la defensa demanda muchas inversiones, mucha especialidad, y porque la idea es pues, precisamente producir estos sistemas tan avanzados y tan complejos también a día de hoy que son también claves, ¿no? Teniendo en cuenta estos 3 elementos, el papel de los estados y el papel de tecnología, yo me voy a centrar solo en 3 ideas, no en 7, yo me voy a limitar solo a 3. Es cierto que en los últimos 2 años Europa ha hecho un esfuerzo en defensa brutal. Se han adoptado estrategias, mecanismos, herramientas. La mayoría de ellas están aún por implementarse, pero sí que es verdad que yo creo que Ucrania ha sido un game changer, absolutamente. Es cierto que llevamos hablando de autonomía estratégica pues desde 1998, la cumbre de San Malo, ¿no? Ahí es donde empezamos a hablar de una Europa de la defensa, pero no ha sido hasta ahora cuando realmente nos hemos estado dando cuenta, quizás durante la primera administración Trump, de que los americanos sí se están yendo, los americanos tienen otros intereses, los americanos no quieren estar más implicados en todas las partes del mundo, quieren centrarse en China, quieren centrarse en Asia-Pacífico, y que quieren que nosotros, los europeos, por fin tomemos las riendas de nuestra propia defensa. Es algo que Donald Trump lo está dejando bastante claro y de manera muy disruptiva, ¿no? Pero es una tendencia que hemos estado viendo, es decir, los europeos no han hecho los deberes durante muchos años. Cuando teníamos afinidad con quien estaba en la Casa Blanca, hemos dejado de hacer deberes, nos hemos relajado, y cuando venía de repente un presidente republicano es cuando de repente nuestro Josep Borrell y todos empezamos, no, autonomía estratégica, hay que luchar por ella. Es decir, yo creo que ahí nosotros tenemos que que tenemos algo de culpa. Por otro lado, también es cierto que los americanos han sido muy ambiguos. Desde el primer momento pues, tuvieron algunas reticencias hacia nuestra autonomía estratégica, pero sí que es verdad que poquito a poco nos han apoyado, nos han dicho invertir más, hacer más, protegeros más, pero cuando llegaba el tema de la industria, esa era una línea roja que no querían cruzar, ¿no? Sí, ser más independientes, pero sí seguir comprándonos a nosotros. Nosotros vamos a seguir el principal pilar en el tema de la industria de la defensa, ¿no? Y yo creo que aquí es donde viene lo que yo digo que es la primera gran tensión, el primer dilema, ¿no? Yo creo que en el sector de la defensa, en la industria en concreto, hay dos grandes tensiones y un reto muy importante. El primer dilema es precisamente ese paralelismo entre lo que son las estructuras de la OTAN y las estructuras de la Unión Europea, ¿no? Los americanos han dicho a los europeos reforzaros, hacer más, pero dentro del pilar europeo de la OTAN, no tanto aparte dentro de lo que es la Unión Europea, ¿no? Es la OTAN la que hace todo el planning y es la Unión Europea la que ahora está sacando a relucir algunas herramientas como el tema del presupuesto. La OTAN no tiene un presupuesto propio o el tema de regulación. Es decir, la idea es que las dos estructuras, tanto la OTAN como la Unión Europea, se puedan complementar a la hora de soportar la defensa de Europa, ¿no? Eso quizás es una idea que puede ser win-win, ¿no? Que puede ser positiva, pero el hecho de que al final Estados Unidos sea parte de la OTAN y tal como estamos viendo cómo se está posicionando, creo que ahora mismo esa tensión no ayuda al sector de la defensa europea precisamente a impulsarse. A pesar de todos los esfuerzos que están haciendo, a pesar de lo que estamos escuchando desde parte de la Comisión, lo que es cierto es que la mayoría de los europeos y de los países europeos son conscientes de que la dependencia estratégica con Estados Unidos se va a mantener en el tema de inteligencia, en el tema de nuclear deterrence, en el tema de los satélites, en el tema de la logística militar. Y en el tema de la industria, el disengagement, la separación de Estados Unidos también parece prácticamente imposible. Los sistemas europeos, muchos de ellos son interoperables con las plataformas americanas. Las compañías norteamericanas están totalmente embedded en las adquisiciones de defensa europeas. Y por otro lado, también nosotros tenemos cartas con respecto a Estados Unidos. Por ejemplo, el proyecto, el famoso F-35, que parece ser que ahora todo el mundo quiere un F-35, pues involucra a muchos partners europeos. Hay muchas piezas. En Italia, además, hay una industria donde se ensamblan partes del F-35, ¿no? Por lo tanto, hay una interconexión industrial entre Estados Unidos y Europa que es difícil de separar, ¿no? Por lo tanto, este dilema, el tener estas dos estructuras que vemos que se van a mantener en el corto y en el medio plazo, al mismo tiempo, yo creo que es lo que debilita que precisamente el sector de la defensa europea vuele de manera independiente. ¿Qué tiene que pasar para que haya una ruptura y de repente vuele? Pues que haya una crisis brutal, que Estados Unidos invada Groenlandia y que, por lo tanto, los europeos dentro de la OTAN, al ver que Estados Unidos no va a invocar, evidentemente, el artículo 5, rompamos y digamos, hasta aquí hemos llegado. O que Rusia invada un trozo de Polonia y entonces ahí Trump se dé cuenta de con quién está negociando, es decir, con Vladimir Putin, y decida invocar el artículo 5 y entonces los europeos nos demos cuenta de que sí, los americanos están con nosotros y otra vez volvamos a conectarnos y a mirar conjuntamente hacia el futuro. Entonces yo creo que tiene que pasar una gran crisis en este momento de incertidumbre para que realmente veamos si tenemos que apostar por la OTAN o poner todo dentro de la Unión Europea. Dicho sea esto, la única vez que se ha invocado el artículo 5 de la OTAN ha sido después de los atentados del 11S por Estados Unidos, ¿no? Que eso es algo que tendremos que recordarle siempre a Donald Trump. El segundo dilema, que también lo ha mencionado usted, es el National Procurement y Joint Procurement, ¿no? El tema de las adquisiciones nacionales o las adquisiciones conjuntas. Yo creo que esto es uno de los grandes obstáculos y aquí, por ejemplo, volvemos a Francia. Francia, evidentemente, prefiere los campeones nacionales, siempre promueve su industria de la defensa, prefiere las soluciones nacionales y suele excluir a firmas a compañías que no son europeas de algunos proyectos importantes o como, por ejemplo, el tema de los drones militares, ¿no? Tenemos el Future Combat System, el futuro sistema de combate, donde está Francia, está Alemania y está España, y ahí hemos visto como, por ejemplo, Francia se ha enfrentado con Alemania para ver quién lideraba este proyecto, ¿no? Luego tenemos países como Alemania, que tiene un poco las dos cosas, ¿no? Por un lado, sí que ha apoyado proyectos conjuntos, pero por otro lado, en el 2022 ha comprado 35 F-35 de Estados Unidos para misiones nucleares dentro de la OTAN, ¿no? Una decisión que en su momento también suponía como ir en contra de los supuestos esfuerzos que se estaban haciendo a nivel europeo. Francia, por ejemplo, estaba absolutamente frustrada porque estaba apostando por otras plataformas como Rafael o como el Eurofighter, ¿no? Luego, por otro lado, tenemos a UK, a Italia, Japón, que están haciendo otro avión de combate, el Global Combat Air Program, que es evidentemente totalmente separado del franco-alemán español, ¿no? Y luego tenemos a los polacos, por ejemplo, que compran mucho a los norteamericanos, compran mucho ahora mismo a los coreanos, sobre todo ahora después de la guerra en Ucrania. Esto, de alguna manera, es entendible, porque cuando quieres necesidades, capacidades de forma rápida, evidentemente vas rápidamente a lo que está ya hecho. Vas a los americanos, vas a los coreanos y no te metes en un proyecto conjunto europeo, ¿no? Pero al mismo tiempo, si hemos estado viendo durante estos 2 años muchísimos impulsos en el ámbito de la defensa, lo que hemos visto en paralelo es que la dependencia de Estados Unidos se ha incrementado. Es decir, hemos visto 2 tendencias en paralelo. Mucho esfuerzo en la Europa de la defensa y al mismo tiempo la dependencia de Estados Unidos creciendo, ¿no? Algunos datos. Entre el 2016 y 2021, solo el 18% de los US Defense Procurement eran conjuntos, y en el 2023 más del 63% de las compras de armamento de la Unión Europea venían de países no europeos, ¿no? Principalmente los americanos, también los japoneses, los coreanos del sur y también los israelíes, ¿no? En principio, según el último libro blanco de la defensa que se acaba de aprobar, se ha puesto un límite de un 35% de las adquisiciones de defensa que vengan de terceros países, ¿no? Vamos a ver si eso lo conseguimos, si no, pero de todas formas yo creo que sigue siendo algo pequeño, por lo menos para aquellos que estaban apostando realmente por una Europa de la defensa, ¿no? ¿Por qué los países siguen apostando por los campeones nacionales? ¿Por qué los países siguen apostando por sus propias empresas? Pues para proteger sus industrias, para proteger sus empleos, porque quieren asegurar que sus compañías nacionales sean las que ganen los contratos que se están dando en Bruselas, porque en los programas conjuntos es difícil compartir el decision making process, porque ahí tienes que hacer ver por encima de los demás tu interés nacional, porque en muchos de estos proyectos conjuntos tu industria al final va a tener un papel secundario y eso a muchos no les gusta, porque cuando hay una crisis, como el caso de Ucrania, el national procurement es mucho más rápido que un joint procurement. Y por otro lado, porque hay rivalidades históricas entre franceses, entre alemanes e incluso, muchos países europeos se niegan a hacer una capacidad crítica con su vecino con el que no se llevan bien y prefieren hacerlo, por ejemplo, con Japón, ¿no? Por último, el gran reto de estas tecnologías, y yo creo que un poco también se ha dicho aquí, es que a nivel de defensa y de la industria de defensa, en Estados Unidos se empieza a hablar que estamos en una 4ª revolución industrial, o como lo que queramos llamar. Ahora, las nuevas tecnologías, estamos hablando de la nube, de computing, de la inteligencia artificial, eso es el futuro dentro de la defensa. Lo que estamos viendo en Estados Unidos es que las tradicionales compañías de defensa no son las que están tomando ahora los mayores contratos del Pentágono, sino que están siendo otras compañías. Son precisamente Amazon, son precisamente Elon Musk, son las Big Tech las que están cogiendo ahora mismo los principales contratos de la defensa. Ni qué decir pues, del papel que tienen ahora mismo todos esos CEOs de todas esas tecnológicas en la administración de Donald Trump. Pero eso no es el peor problema para nosotros los europeos. El peor problema es que si nosotros establecemos que, por ejemplo, solo el 35% de nuestras capacidades van a venir de terceros países, muy bien, si nosotros ese 65% vamos a construir, vamos a producir municiones, vamos a hacer vehículos ligeros, vamos a hacer aviones de combate, pero si ese 35% va a ser precisamente esas tecnologías que van a definir el futuro de la defensa, al final nos estamos también dejando nuestra sovereignty, nos estamos dejando en manos de ellos, ¿no? Por lo tanto, no se trata tanto de los porcentajes que vamos a comprar a terceros países, sino que la tecnología clave de la defensa para el futuro sea precisamente lo que estemos produciendo aquí en Europa. El panorama no es muy optimista, pero vuelvo un poco al principio. La opinión pública, a pesar de todos estos problemas, a pesar de cómo los países, los estados, empujan por sus propias industrias, muchas veces en contra de proyectos conjuntos y de lo que está haciendo Bruselas, tienen que mirar a las opiniones públicas. La opinión pública europea quiere mayor defensa europea.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, creo que ya vamos un poco retrasados de tiempo, pero antes de pasar la palabra a la audiencia, por si tiene alguna pregunta para nuestros expertos, y en un día como hoy, ¿no?, que según Trump es el Liberation Day, querría hacerle una última pregunta al profesor Letta en relación con el proteccionismo o un potencial o eventual proteccionismo europeo en defensa de nuestras industrias. ¿Debería ser la posición de la Unión Europea?
No, tenemos que ser abiertos y no proteccionistas, tenemos que hacer una reacción a los aranceles de Trump, pero en una lógica de apertura. Pero voy a cerrar aquí porque somos en retraso y la culpa es mía porque mi discurso de antes fue demasiado largo. Tengo que agradecer a todos los ponentes porque para mí es un gran placer de tomar notas en mi cabeza, los 7 puntos, los 3 puntos, el problema energético, el problema de telecom, es verdaderamente lo que necesitamos. Entonces, muchísimas gracias y muchísimas gracias verdaderamente por este evento que para mí es un honor de estar aquí con esta audiencia y de haber tomado notas de estas ideas que son en manera de añadir a lo que yo dijo o en manera de ajustar, lo que para mí es muy importante porque la necesidad de ajustar el discurso es absolutamente fundamental porque lo que es necesario. Entonces, muchísimas gracias a todos. Gracias.
Gracias. Pues si no hay ninguna pregunta del público, que parece que no, les invito a que compartan con nosotros un tiempo con una pequeña recepción que hemos preparado para ustedes. Muchas gracias por su asistencia.
Gracias.